Sunday. That's too bad. You missed great reading and a lot of good instruction. So once again, quick encouragement, participate in those. Seth and I are going to find a way to put those up so they're there permanently. But what I see happening, and I'm a little concerned about it, is because these are available online, we're not getting a lot of real-time participation. We're not getting a lot of attendance. We're not getting, and that worries me, because that's procrastination, and it makes me think that you're not doing your writing either, or putting that off. And I want you to do that. I want you to get the best experience out of this class as possible, and I want you to finish this class with a finished screenplay, and a good finished screenplay. I don't want you to be, thinking, oh, I'll reference this in a few months and I'll do it then, because now's the time when we can read the material in class. We can address, I can address your material personally, because after the class is over, I'm going to be way too busy to be reading work from the students. So I've got this one window to dedicate to this, and I'm doing my best to push everything else aside so that I have time to properly respond to everybody's writing. So jump on it. Don't procrastinate. And if you're able to physically attend the classes, you should be here. You'll get a lot more out of it. If you're able to physically attend the Sunday night porch readings, you should really do that. You'll get a lot out of it. I think everybody who's been can tell you that it's a better experience. I know it's a little awkward doing it, being remote and watching it, but that's the best we can do. So better than nothing, but still, if at all possible, physically attend. If not possible, then at least be with us in your office or living room or wherever you are, as we're doing the class. It'll help a lot. All right, so today I want to do a quick review of some of the things that we've talked about. I want to throw out some new things for you. Most of all, most important, of course, is that you're writing. So I hope your writing's going well. I hope you're putting in those 4 pages a day and finding. I'm getting some notes personally from some of you, and it's exciting. I hear people talking about. It's fun to hear people discovering what. Well, for instance, we talked about how important it is to establish those characters right off the bat. To take that time, instead of just saying cop, nurse, Bill, Joe, Mary, but to take that time to define the character. And when you define them on the page, you're defining those characters in your mind, and it's really fun to read. I've had a couple comments of people who have mentioned that doing that has influenced the script, that suddenly the script is taken off in new directions, exciting new directions, because suddenly there's real characters instead of cop and doctor and bullshit like that. So that's fantastic. And it's fun to be reading. It's fun to see, because I've been getting some of your writing, and it's only been a couple of weeks now, but being able to see the changes and how the writing is becoming more professional and more full. Having said that, however, damn it, you guys gotta. That's why I want to repeat a few things, because maybe I'm throwing stuff out a little too quickly, but these things are some of these things are really important. And if, for instance, if you've given me work today or yesterday, I haven't been able to read anything that arrived today. So and I don't believe I read anything I only received a couple of things yesterday, so I don't believe I got to any of those. If you sent those in, I want you to listen to the things that we're going to go over tonight, and review your notes. I hope you're taking notes, and go back and incorporate those things into the writing and resubmit them, and tell me, mention in the email that you are resubmitting, so that I don't duplicate and read things twice, because that'll save me time. It'll show me that you're getting it, and you're going to have to do it anyway. So do that, and then resend it if you have time tomorrow. Do this and resend it. I won't have time. I have my own writing that I have to get done tomorrow, so I won't be reading anything tomorrow. So you have tomorrow. If you've already submitted something but you want to go in and make the corrections and resubmit, you've got tomorrow to do it. So please do that if you can. All right, I think the best way to attack this tonight is we're going to go into some of the shorts and some of the features pages that you guys have written, and we'll use that as a way to review, because I'll be pointing out things. And I know that some of you submitted work, and afterwards you learned things, and so you weren't able to make those changes. So I understand that, but I'm still going to use it, of course, as an example to show you what needs to be changed. But don't take it too personally, and don't get offended by it. It's just, this is a good way for us to go over and visually show this. So Seth, let's go ahead and show this. So we'll just jump right into Eli's. Well, let me see. Is this Eli's short? Yes. Okay. All right, Eli, very, very nice job on your title page. Looks great. See what he did? He's got it all. It's very balanced. He's got the copyright and the WGA registration justified to the left. He's got his contact information justified to the right, with everything: email, phone, physical address. Fantastic. The only thing I would suggest here is that you don't capitalize, put quotation marks around, and underline the title. It's a little bit of overkill, and it actually just doesn't look as good. So I would recommend that you always put it in. I recommend that you always put your title in quotation marks, but then that you don't need to underline it. So that would be my only suggestion on that. Now let's turn to the next page. Here's a good example. Right here he has fade in, and that's a great way to start. Sometimes I don't start with fade in, but there's no reason not to. You can do that if you want to. But however, fade in needs to be justified to the left. So fade in will be left justified. When you have fade outs, that'll be right justified. And there's another example later in one of the other scripts. A few little corrections on going through and checking some misspellings and better wordings. But of course here we've got Dr. D. Let's give him an age, a specific age. Remember, that's one of the things we do, is giving a specific age. And then got some commas down here that we got to remember to work in those commas. That's an interesting thing. For some reason, since I started teaching, since the first class, which was how many years ago? 6 years ago, I think. There's something about modern writers that they don't understand the comma. So I don't know if it's a complete lack in the American education system, but go look up a comma and figure out how to use it, because I get really sick of putting in commas all the time where they should be. Yeah, as you see, this was a really nice looking script, Eli. It looked good. And then two little things. I like to put the end always at the end, of course, centered. And here's a little thing that I recommend that we get away from. Right here, and I see this a lot where people write beat. They want to communicate that there's a pause, and so they write beat. And don't do that in a screenplay. Remember, we're trying to make the narrative flow. We're trying to make this language just flow like a story. And to you that's obvious, beat, but other people reading it, to them, I'd prefer to, well, personally, I don't think you need to write it. That's what the ellipses is for. So if you want to indicate a pause, just put ... and continue on. There's a pause. You don't have to write anything. It doesn't take up an extra line. As you see here, putting in beat takes up an extra line. Sometimes if the ellipses isn't right for whatever reason, I'll still use the parenthetical, but I'll put a pause, comma, then ... and then I'll go down and do that. But again, it's just very clear, and I don't like reading screenplays that have incomplete sentences that are just very sporadic and just throwing words down on the page. And that's a little bit what using the word beat is. So I'd recommend you say a pause then, or you just use the ellipses. And that'll make it clear. All right, moving on over to, this is Danny's script, Over the Edge. Oh, Eli, at the beginning here, even on a short screenplay, let's say, here instead of a short screen, let's say an original short screenplay by Eli Lamoureux. And again, the reason we do that is because that instantly communicates that this is not based on a book, it's not based on a short story, it's not based on somebody else's work. This is something that exists solely here, and it's the property of this author, and that's the only rights as a producer that I would have to chase down. So here on Danny's, we've got Over the Edge. Let's put that in quotation marks. Danny, again, an original screenplay by Danny Kinder. Here at the bottom, remember, you didn't have copyright, you didn't have your WGA registration number, so let's put those justified left. Put your physical address as well as your phone number and your email justified right. Okay, we're going to beat that dead horse over and over and over again until I never have to talk about this again. Okay, Danny's got an interesting situation here where it'll be good to address. He's got a really great way of starting out where he's starting the screenplay out and he's bringing in like an image. He's fading into an image, something exciting happening. A man pointing a gun and he shoots, and then it fades away, and it fades to black, and then it fades back in, and you see somebody coming out of a house getting shot, and it fades out, etc., etc. It's a really nice stylistic touch. However, every time you do that, every time you jump to a new scene, of course you need a new scene heading. So when you fade out and you fade in on something, you're coming to a new scene. So you need to continue to put in your scene headings there. And you're doing it right here where you've got fade in with a colon instead of a period, justified left, fade out, justified right with a colon instead of a period. And then you just carry it through just like that. Here, this is we're going to talk about something from a couple different angles tonight. This is the first one, is being passive in your writing is a bad idea. You don't want to be passive. You want to be you want action. Movies are action. Moving pictures, movies, that's what it is. You want things to be moving. You want to be describing what's happening. There's a tendency sometimes for us to describe in our writing, in our narrative, for a tendency for us to be as if we're describing a still photograph. It's like as if you're describing to the blind man sitting next to you. You remember that metaphor that we're talking about? Then like a still, so it's like, oh, there's this on here, this is happening, that is happening, there's a man standing against a thing. And we want to be, we want to make it look like we're describing actions that are happening right there. So there's something about the narrative that when it's static, when it's stalled, when it's like when you're describing still images, that's not what you want. You want that motion. And so when you're describing this happens, then this happens, then this happens, then this happens, that gives this forward momentum that's going to pull people through the script. And you want that. So we're going to talk about gerunds in a bit when we get to that. But right here we got an interesting situation where Danny is, he approaches this passive thing in a different way. So Danny, this is what you did. You say, a man 35, 6 feet, dark suit, stands in the center of the street pointing a gun at a house. And then you say, a shot is fired toward the house. Now that was confusing to me because what you meant as I saw that is that the man shoots. The man's the one that pulls the trigger. So I don't understand exactly why you went passive here. You should have just said he pulls the trigger. Active, A man stands in the center of the street. He points, instead of pointing, he points a gun at a house. He pulls the trigger. It's very active. It's a great way to start a short film, a great way to start any film. But just remember, be active, and don't be English. This is the way I say it's English. I had an English mother-in-law, and she would never come to the point. She would always talk around everything, drove me up the wall, And so don't be English. Be American. Be Hemingway. Just get to the point. Okay. Here we have, at the bottom I made a note. You talk about, here's an exterior hospital. And I crossed out, you said the camera shows the outside of a hospital. Just describe the hospital. Obviously the camera's going to show it because it's a movie, and so whatever you describe in your text, the camera's going to show. So don't describe it that way. Just, we're exterior hospital. Tell us what the hospital, is it like a hospital built in the 30s? Is it run down? Is it brand new? Is it shiny? That's what I'm talking about. When you want to emphasize something, I recommend using italics instead of capitalizing things. In screenplays, speaking about the blueprint issues, capitalization in a screenplay means something. So let's not confuse it. So if you want to emphasize something, just italicize it instead of capitalizing it. La da 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 da. Now here, Danny, you're doing something that we discussed in our Sunday night reading, and this is really important, and I think those of you who were there, I think you'll agree with me, you instantly see how this can help. If you have a scene where you've got only two people in it, and one's a man and one's a woman, you do this later in this script, so let's pull along to the later part. You have the mother and the son. Okay, great. So you've got Jacob and you've got Tiffany. And they're the only two people in this scene. And so as they're talking back and forth, and then you jump to the narrative and you explain what's happening, and you constantly are saying, Jacob does this, Tiffany does this, Jacob does this, Tiffany does this. It'll help the scene flow and just zip by better if you just use he and she. Because there's nobody else. If you say he, there's nobody else in the scene except Jacob, so obviously it's Jacob. If you use she, nobody else but Tiffany, so use Tiffany. That helps a lot. And while we're on this subject, this is a note for everybody. This is a note for Hollywood. This is something that drives me nuts. I like the movie Titanic. I love the movie Titanic. A lot of people, criticize it. I'm impressed. I think it's a good movie. But one of the things that drove me crazy was that the characters were always saying each other's names. I hate that in writing, and it sounds so phony. To me, it communicates an unreality. And so in this, we've got Jack, Rose, Jack, Rose, Jack, Rose. I mean, they say, I don't know how many times they say each other's names in this. And you'll notice a lot of times in conversations, especially in dialogue written by newer writers, there's only two people in a scene, and I mean, if I'm here and I'm talking to Danny, and we're having a conversation, I'm probably not going to use his name at any point in that conversation. I mean, why would I? I'm Danny. Danny. I'm not selling him a car. Which if I was a used car salesman, I'd be touching his arm and saying his name all the time. But if it's just me and Danny talking, I'm not going to say, Danny, do you understand? Danny, I really loved the time that we went out and did this. Danny, why didn't you come to the strip club with me? That kind of stuff. So be aware of that as you're writing, and go through your dialogue and take out the times when the characters use each other's names especially in a one-on-one situation. Now you might want to do that judiciously at the very beginning to communicate what somebody's name is. I frankly don't think that's all that important. At some point, the name of the characters are going to come out. So I don't think it's all that important for somebody in scene one to make sure that Marilyn's name is spoken so that everybody knows her name is Marilyn. So be conscious of that. So he's and she's, don't overuse characters' names. And then Danny, just go back to Scorpion 69 and really work on conforming the script to the proper format. Okay, the next one, we've got Night Out with Friends, an original screenplay by Corey Gregerson. Great. Corey, just remember, copyright 2017, WG registration, justified left. Work on your balance a little more so it's a little better balanced. And let's jump in and see what Corey's going to teach us. Okay, so fade in goes before. Fade in will be the first thing. If you use that to begin your screenplay, that'll be the very first thing that you do, and then you go to the location. So fade in and then interior bedroom night. Let's discuss camera directions, because you several times in this script, or at least a few times, you talk about camera dollying, camera dollies, camera dollies. Let's not do that. A lot of people don't. Again, a lot of people who are reading the screenplay won't be versed in the equipment that we use to make films, and they won't necessarily be versed in the terminology that we use. And so, again, to make the narrative flow better, it's better to use. I wrote camera pulls back to reveal. So there's only a few camera directions. Camera pushes in, camera pulls back, camera tilts up or down, camera pans right or left. That's a common thing that I see people mistake. A lot of times they'll say the camera pans up. Cameras don't pan up. Cameras pan to the left, they pan to the right. They don't pan up, they don't pan down. They tilt up, they tilt down, pan left, they pan right, they push in, they pull back. So let's stick with that. Now here we have an example of a really, big block of text. Now I've gone in here and I've made my little L marks that indicate let's make a new paragraph here. And that is simply to give the page some air. So it's not such an intimidating block. A lot of people when they're reading, if they see a big block like that, they'll skip over it. It's just a little daunting. So I recommend that you give your text some air. So if you've got something, I say if you've got more than 5 lines, then find a way to break it up just to give it some space. Same thing when you're dealing with dialogue. If you've got a whole page of dialogue, calls attention to itself, not in a good way. And sometimes, there'll be a reason for a person to have a page-and-a-half monologue. It's not very common, but it's there. I recommend if you have a situation like that, or something where the dialogue is going to be half a page or more, that you break that up. That you find a simple way to, describe. You break it up, describe the action, the physical action that the character does, or something that's happening around in the scene. Again, just to break it up, just to give it some space, and make it a better read. Here we've got, the sound of a cough. You don't have to capitalize that. Remember we talked about that last time. That's an old relic from the studio days. This is not a script for the sound department, so don't worry about that. Here we just have a simple, you went from one room into a completely different room without changing the scene heading. If you want the camera to follow, do a nice Scorsese move or a Paul Thomas Anderson move and follow, that's cool. But if people are leaving the room and you're cutting to another room, that's an entirely new location, and you need a new scene heading. Let's see, description, you have a character coming in without any description, without any age, so let's fix that. Cool script, by the way. I enjoyed reading this. This was cool. It's messed up, and I like messed up scripts. Okay, we've got the camera panning, we've got the camera tilting up. Okay, good work. By the way, good work on all of you that got it in. Now, by the way, I'm still missing, I think about 10 of you have not yet submitted your short films. So get on it. You're procrastinating. All right, let's go to Pam's. Now, Pam, I'm going to be a little harder on you because this is the 3rd time you've taken the class. And so you should know some of this stuff. So unless you've made conscious decisions to stray from the proper format and do it your own way, which if you have, that's fine on your own, but in class do it our way, so you don't set a bad example for these fine young writers. Okay, so here, remember, put your, let's have some balance on the page. Let's put your title in quotation marks, an original screenplay by Pamela J. Bradford, copyright, WGA, justified left, contact information, justified right. Whew. Now you see why this irritates me. It's like, it's like over and over again I have to keep saying this. So I'm going to start. I think I've gone over title pages enough, so every time I have to say something about title pages, I'm going to add "God damn it" after every note. So that'll be entertaining for me. Which is what I do when I'm correcting and I'm sitting and I'm going, God damn it. Okay, instead of outside, it should be exterior. And you've got interiors and exteriors spelled out. Which, you know what, this is interesting. I actually prefer that. I think that's a better read, but it's unexpected and it calls attention to itself in the, and it's in what we expect in screenplay format. So I suggest you go back to EXT period, INT period. And what else do I have in here? Oh, this is a little note here, but I don't like to, I'm really sensitive to cheating. So I don't like to say, in a situation here where we've got JD coming in, he puts, got a Little Caesars box, and it says he gives his wife a kiss on the cheek, and then, Pam, you introduce the character, KC. To me, it's like I don't want to know. I want to know in the dialogue and in the relationship. I, as a reader, want to put it together. Again, because when we're watching the film, the camera's going to come in, pick up KC, and we're not going to have a title that comes up that says his wife. That's not going to happen. But we're going to find out in the way that they interact and the way they speak to each other that they're married. So I feel like that's a little bit of a cheat, giving the reader information that it's unnecessary for one thing, and it's a bit of a cheat because it should be in the dialogue and in the relationship. La da 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 da. And so please, as you're having questions, please write these down, because as soon as we zip through these, I want to answer your questions. And do we have a way, Seth, tonight to get the questions from the remote viewers? It's on the chat? Okay, cool. Just a weird thing. The guest, new description. Yeah, it's just a rough writing. I recognize that. But other than that, little tiny things. But nice. And okay, we're on to Yelena's script, Heist. An original screenplay by God damn it, and then copyright 2017, God damn it, on the left side, justified right, we need the contact information, God damn it. Okay. And this is interesting. I've started several films off, and you do the same thing that I've done several times, which is you start off with in blackness and a voice or something. I like that. It's a cool way to start. I always just say interior blackness, and then I go ahead, and that satisfies me. And it shows that it's the beginning. It's the beginning of a scene. Whereas just doing it this way that you had with it saying VO black screen. Again, that's that choppy, sporadic, incomplete sentences, overly technical, and it messes with the narrative flow. So let's put interior blackness, and then go ahead. So yes, so work on your complete sentences. Again, it's going to make it flow so much better. I started going in here and adding words so that I could complete the sentence, and then I decided that I had better things to do with my time. So that's your job. You go in and do that. Better descriptions: a robber, a man in his late 30s. Now I got to know more. This is a main character in your short film, and that's all we know about him is that he's a robber. We don't have his name, and he's in his mid 30s. What does he look like? What is he? I want more specificity there. Same thing with a woman. We got a woman coming in. Let's have her age. Let's have a description. Here we've got on page 3. We've got moments later. Naughty. You owe me a cigar. You owe me a cigar. I'll give you the names of the cigars I prefer later, so that make it easier for you. But yeah, describe the driver. No more moments later. That's 2 cigars, but let's just call it one good one. And then put the end at the bottom, and you got a good one. That was a really fun script too. I really enjoyed that one as well. And okay, we're going to hold this one for a second. Jared's, for reasons that you will soon find out. Danny's fantasy. I'll be a little harder on Danny too, because is this the 3rd time you've taken the class as well?
It's the 3rd class.
3rd class. Second screenwriting class. Okay. So let's put it in parentheses. Good. Let's get a little better balance here. It's a little fucked up. It's a little messy. So let's make it look better. And but as you see, I love the script. Love it. So good script. I wanted a better description of Paige at the beginning. I wanted to know what kind of car. You say a car pulls up to the curb. Again, it's an opportunity to add texture, to add something, to your script. You've got Jay. I want a description of Jay. Know who he is. This is a little tiny picky thing, but when you use an ellipses, your screenwriting software is going to see an ellipses, interpret it as a period, and insert a space. So that's not proper. That's not the way it's supposed to look. There's not supposed to be an empty space there. So you have to physically go in. I know this is difficult, but you need to physically go in, get rid of that space. Just delete it so that it goes right from ... right into the next word. I love ellipses. I just absolutely love them. I think and interestingly, I learned this when I was when I was studying the Shakespearean, the folios, the earliest writings of Shakespeare, and I had a instructor in college who pointed out that Shakespeare used punctuation to tell the actors how to deliver the line. Now this is fantastic for us. This is absolutely brilliant because, you know, we're into this, screenwriters, we're into this thing where we're doing the parentheticals and we're telling them softly, we're telling them pause, we're telling, you know, pause then, we're doing all this bullshit, whereas a lot of times a simple comma is gonna, that creates a break, that creates a pause, you know, that creates a, and an ellipses does that. And dashes do that. You know, the ellipses, the ... indicate a pause or a trailing off. The dashes, that indicates someone's being cut off. You know, so they're talking and they're being cut off. Periods mean something. Question mark, exclamation points. I mean, use these things and the actual rhythm of the dialogue to tell your actors how to deliver your lines. You can get a lot of mileage out of that. You really can get a lot of mileage out of it. Great. Yeah, some really nice work, Denny. Very few comments to make on there, but this was a suggestion at the end. I thought cut to black. I felt like it needed a cut to black. That's just a suggestion, and then put the end on it. Okay, here we have Eli. We read Eli's short, and this is Eli's first significant amount of writing. I think it's like 21 pages. We're not going to go through too specifically because we have other writers to get to, but just some real quick things. Again, I'm not going to like make a big deal out of it, but I think underlining, capitalizing, and quotation marks overkill, as I said before. Here, you know, you've got a little note, not to be confused with the 1974 film of the same name. Nobody's going to confuse it with the 1974 film of the same name. I didn't even know there was a 1974 film of the same name. So don't worry about that. Be sure to put your WGA number down there, otherwise looking really good. And then I think most of it is comments that we already made on your short. Putting fade into the left. This is an important one though. Sometimes I see whenever a character is first seen in the film, that's the time to describe them, and keep in mind. I mean, keep in mind what you're describing. It's a visual that, you know, you're not holding any secrets by, you know, you're not gaining anything by holding back and not letting the reader see something that the audience is going to see instantaneously. So instead of just, you know, here, great way to start it off, by the way, a hot, young, naked woman, that's great. But let's give her a name right off the bat. Let's not wait 3 paragraphs later to give her her name. Just say, you know, skinny, a hot, young, naked woman. And then the same thing with fatso. I don't even think you need to, you know, describe too much that. Anyway, let's get away from that thing, and we already addressed. Well, we could go the other thing about the names. So, oh, okay. And here now you have a lot of characters. As Conrad is stumbling through, he's coming upon a lot of characters, and each time you have somebody come in, that person needs to be, the name needs to be capitalized. So whether it's a hobo, a prostitute, you know, whatever, the clown. Make sure that, again, first time you see that character, it says clown and a description, and then continue on. Capitalize those people so that we know that it's the first time that they've appeared. You've got Abby, who's a very, you know, Abby's the title character of the film, and yet all we have is that she's a little girl named Abby, 9. So I want to know, I mean, what kind of little girl? What does she look like? Is she big for her age, little for her age? You know, what color is her hair? Is she happy looking? Is she mean looking? Is she, I don't know, what is she wearing? Just, you get the picture. Same thing, ellipses, get rid of those spaces. Here's a great description I want to point out. He talks about, you know, Conrad sitting in a chair in a circle consisting of other troubled teens that look like rejects from Glee. I thought that was great. That was a great description. So, again, let's get rid of beat. We don't need beat. Oh, this is now here. That's great. So you know the troubled teens that look like rejects from Glee. Teens should be capitalized. And if you want to go really advanced and be a really responsible screenwriter, you'll find a way to communicate how many. A lot of these are extras. You know, when you have extras coming up, like it'll say bystanders, you know, capitalized. Again, these are human beings. These are actual human beings that have to be on the set the day and in front of the camera the day that we're making this, that we're shooting the scene. So even that, featured extras, crowds or whatever, capitalize that. And if you can, and find an artful way to communicate how many people that is. Again, if you just say a crowd, and in your mind a crowd is 11, right? You should probably say, you know, a crowd of a dozen, a crowd of about 11. Because, you know, the production manager may see that and suddenly they'll show up on the set with 200 people. And that's a lot of money that was spent that didn't need to be spent, you know, so just find a way to artfully let us know how many people are there. Ooh. Oh, here's a little note that I'll pick on you a little bit on this because it's something I see in a lot of writing. Whenever you have somebody that, you know, when you're referring to, this is the English teacher in me that just claws its way out. So if you have mom or dad, you know, if you say, you know, it's John's mom, then that's not capitalized, you know, or it's his grandmother, that's not capitalized. But if you say mom, you know, or, you know, get out of my room, mom, if you're using it as a name, like you'd say Jared or Randy or whatever, then that's capitalized. So if you're using mom, dad, grandpa, grandma as a name, then capitalize it all the time. And otherwise it's just simply wrong. And here's now you might think I'm being pedantic about this, but let me explain something to you. A lot of the people that are readers at agencies and readers at production companies and readers for actors or directors or whoever, a lot of these people are frustrated writers who are, this is what they're doing in order to make a little cash and to get their foot in the door somehow. And a lot of them are really, you know, jealous, you know, petty. A lot of them are, you know, English majors, people who went to college and studied. A lot of them have studied writing extensively, and they're like I said before, you know, they're looking for any excuse to not like your script, to not recommend your script, to not pass it along. So if it's filled with, you know, grammatical mistakes, spelling mistakes, formatting mistakes, you're going to have a harder time getting through. And believe me, with the pettiness in that wonderful city, that it's not above someone. It's not above someone to read a script and recognize that it's an absolutely magnificent script, and not want to pass it along just out of pure jealousy, and using any excuse that they can to not do that. So I know that sounds extreme, but Hollywood is not known as the place where wise, emotionally mature people gather. Okay, Randall. That'll be the quote that I'm remembered for. Freon, great. So let's put some quotation marks around that. Let's find a little better balance here, and let's just make it. You got the information there. That's right. You just it's just not very balanced, and you can make it look a little nicer. And remember that title page is your first impression, whether it's a PDF, whether it's a hard copy. That's the first thing people see. That title page should be a work of beauty. It should be perfect. It should, I mean, It should be awe-inspiring. More than any other page in your screenplay, your title page should be flawless. So work on that. Work on that. In fact, you know what I'm going to do, because we're having so much trouble with this? You're going to have 2 assignments this week. One assignment is simply to create the perfect title page. Make up a title. I don't care what it is. It can be the title of the script that you're actually working on. It can be the title of your short film. But give me, for next week, as part of your writing assignment that you turn in, what you think is a perfect title page. And I'm going to keep track of it, and I'm going to require it from every one of you, because it's so very, very important, and we're getting such wildly divergent what's the right word? Expressions, artistic expressions, and that's not what we're looking for. Okay, what do I write here? This is visually unclear to me. Describe better. Okay, yeah, I remember this. I didn't understand, Randy, what you were describing. Just visually, it was like I had to read it 3 times and go, "Oh, okay, I get it. The camera's outside, because I don't know people that are huffing Freon, so I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how that happens. So to me, just the mechanics of what I'm supposed to be seeing. So think of that blind man sitting next to you and say, we're outside of a brick apartment building. 2 young people are hanging out of a window, doing something. Camera descends, camera rises, camera whatever you want to say. But just make it very simple and clear, so that especially in your very first couple of paragraphs, you don't want to make people confused as to what they're supposed to be seeing. Be more specific with ages and descriptions. Let's get rid of these spaces and beat. Need a better description, specific age. New scene. The cut will communicate the passage of time. Yeah, so you've got Jimmy returns upstairs to watch. Within minutes, a tall, thin... We talked about that on Sunday about, we're not going to be sitting there in a room for several minutes waiting for the policeman to show up. So just cut to a new scene, and editing is a beautiful thing. You can jump over decades, time periods, into different realities, so use it. Great. Oh, okay, so dream sequence. Yeah, so again, that dream sequence is like flashback and montage. Try not to have to say dream sequence. Try to just make it very clear by the images that you're expressing that it is a dream sequence. And the easiest way to do it is, you show somebody in bed and his eyes are closed, and then you cut to an image and you describe that the images are hazy or colors are muted or whatever. And we as a reader, it's good for the reader it involves them if they have to be mentally there putting the pieces. It makes them feel good to be like, it's a dream sequence. Oh, it's a flashback. Oh, it's a montage. Instead of just telling them. So there's a more artful way of doing it, which is, you're completely capable of doing, so I think you should do that. Same thing here, end of dream sequence. You could just cut to him in bed and he wakes up, and then you know that it's, the end of the dream sequence. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, here we got this guy, Jimmy test fires 100 rounds. That's a lot of on-screen shooting, I wrote, test firing 100 rounds. That's, that'll go on a long time. So I don't think I don't think it's necessary that we know that it's 100 rounds, but that we see him shooting. That's fine. When Jimmy returns home, age, description, of Khalil and Dion. Age of the young sales assistant. Remember, if they're very nice, good work. If they've got a line in your film, they deserve a name and a description. That's my take on it. So take that into consideration. Okay, and remember, we've got Scorpion 69, so you all have that. You can all go and see, to create a perfect title page for your assignment, all you got to do is go to the title page of Scorpion 69 and basically plug in your own information, and you've got a really nice title page. And then whenever you have a question about anything in formatting or how you do anything, just flip through the script. That's the reason I gave it to you, so you can you'll have a reference to guide you as you do that. All right, so for the last 15 minutes before we break, I want to get your questions. Questions on your writing. I mean, is there something that we haven't addressed yet that's a problem that you've encountered that you'd like to ask me? Or not even necessarily a question, or something exciting that you've come upon that you want to share with us. Like, who was it that found the horoscope? That was that Anne?
I think so.
Yeah, that was great. I'd never heard of that before. But she would identify the horoscope of a character and then use the description of that sign to fill out the. I thought that was a really cool way of doing it. I'd never heard of anyone doing that. Well done. All right, Jared, do you have a question? Do you have a microphone?
Yeah. So in my feature, I was introducing locations, and I was curious as to capitalization or not capitalization. So, for example, I have exterior day, comma, Denver City.
No, it should be exterior Denver
City
day.
Okay.
Yeah. Remember, it's interior, exterior, then the location, then day or night.
Okay.
But then you don't capitalize within the text, the location within the narrative.
Okay, so I do capitalize it in the
Scene heading, everything in the scene
heading.
heading should be capitalized, but
and
not
then,
in
And then if I talk about it in the description, it's not capitalized.
right.
Bingo. Okay.
The quotation marks around the title, why is that a thing? I mean, normally if you were in a document referring to another book or a film, you would use that.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't italicize it. Why is the actual original title put into quotation marks in a film script?
You mean on the title page?
Yeah.
That's just the way it's
It's the
just
convention?
tradition.
Okay.
You could get away with not using quotation marks and instead underlining it, one or the other.
I see.
But it's more common to see it in it's expected, it's common, it won't call attention to itself, it's correct. Underlining it would be suitable as well, but
That started because on the first page of a book or a play, or just the title, it's the title, and then subsequently, and it's referred to from other places, it's put in quotation marks. But
yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, some doesn't make any sense, but yeah, a lot of it is simply things that, for instance, we talked about interior and INT period, EXT period, and that's expected, and to vary from that would just call a little bit of attention to itself, and again, you don't want to do anything that would make a producer or an actor or a director question your experience, your professionalism. So some of these things that, like the way Pam did it, like I said, I prefer that. I prefer that she wrote out interior as a full word. It reads better. You don't have to, somebody reading a screenplay for the very first time, that would make more sense than INT. However, that would call attention to itself in a way that makes it look like maybe a script that's written by someone who's it's a little dumb, but got to play the game a little bit. So, and like I said, I've got a friend. I wouldn't call him a friend, but an associate who refuses to follow. He'll if whatever's expected, he'll do it another way, and it has absolutely hindered his progress. Has absolutely, even though he's a well-known director, his scripts look like they're written by a high school student. And you just can't take it seriously. You're like, how the hell? To take this. Basically everything that you see in these scripts that I'm showing you and the way I'm teaching you, he'll do it a different way just to do it a different way, because he refuses to do anything the way anybody wants to, which is one of the reasons he doesn't have a career anymore. Okay, let's see. We have a question. Annie, do you have anything to say about musicals? I really liked Chicago. That was a good one. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Do we anything to say about musicals? I've never actually written a musical, so that's a very good question. I don't know how to guide you on that one. I apologize, but I'm not sure how that's done. I would recommend that you pull up a screenplay, find a screenplay of a recent musical, and see how they incorporate the songs. That'd be very. I'm very curious about that as well. So you don't use the word flashback. No, it's better to not use the word flashback. Cut to, fade in. Please clarify. Well, for instance, you go from one scene to the next. Let's say we got Walter who's sitting in his. He's sitting in his den, looking out the window. He sits in his den. He looks out the window. He lifts a whiskey glass, right? And he looks out the window. And then we cut to exterior backyard, and something's happening with this beautiful wife and children that we've never seen before. And we describe the images, that they're hazy, the colors are muted or whatever. And you can describe Walter looking 10 years younger, something, and it's instant. I mean, then you see what I mean? It's like anybody is going to instantly pick up that this is a flashback, and you don't have to do that clumsy, amateurish flashback. You don't have to say it. Do it artfully. Do it smoothly. So that's what I mean on that. Rachel, we've probably covered this, but do you convey a year or a time frame, or is it implied by setting description? That's another thing, to do it artfully. It's a great idea to communicate. You can do it really easily by saying, exterior Main Street, and then you could put, subtitle : Sacramento, 1976. I mean, that's direct. Or you could be a little more artful about it, and you could just describe, the shiny new 1976 model Cadillac that comes by, and you could talk about the way the people are dressed. You could describe a movie poster, or you could describe a newspaper that has Nixon on it or something. You know what I mean? There are ways to and then that's more, then again, this is an opportunity to add texture, to add tone, instead of just jumping right to it's 1976, with a subtitle, and letting your art director and your production designer and your director and your producer decide how they're going to communicate that. Have some fun with it. Use those things. What is it that you remember 1976? And bring it out. Let us see it. Camera directions. Okay. Yep, those are pretty much all the camera directions that you're really going to need. Cut to, that's an editing direction. Fade in, that's an editing direction. Exiting this way or that way. This isn't a stage play, so you're not having people exit to the right. You're not having people exit to the left. So don't worry. You can say he exits through the front door, but we're putting people in a real life situation, so you don't have to worry about exiting that. Okay, that was Anne. Good. Choosing names. What about choosing names? Any comments? I just go with my gut on that, and sometimes I'll go searching baby names. Like I'll go and actually, this is kind of smart. I was working on it's kind of smart. I didn't come up with this, but I was writing a script or story about a character who was getting married. It's present day, is a young woman getting married. So I just went back, and she's supposed to be like 20, 21 years old. So I went back, 20 years and looked what the most popular Utah baby names for females were in that year. And I chose one of those names because it was real. It felt real. So sometimes I do that. Sometimes I just look at the names on my bookshelf and pick something out. Yeah, question.
I was going to say, I've been going to IMDb and pulling up shows that have 10, 12 seasons.
Right.
And just going, okay, I like that first name, and then just keep scrolling until I find a last name I like.
Yeah.
As far as characters go.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Let's see. Rachel, good to see you're watching. Okay. let's see what Jason says, there seems to be a fine line between using the story to provide direction to the reader and actually being explicit about it. Are there additional resources on determining the specificity needed? That's going to come to you as you write. You'll find that less experienced writers tend to describe more, and the more experienced writers seem to just only tell you what they need to tell you, and then, for instance, so if somebody's walking through a forest, a less experienced writer is going to be telling you what kind of flowers and what, and they're going to go into the trees and the flowers and the lights and the insects, and as if they're writing an epic fantasy novel, whereas, a more experienced writer will usually find the things that, just find the right words, the lush Kentucky greenery or something, just instantly just throw something simple out there so that the person gets an idea in their head and then just move on. You don't have to belabor everything, just like in character descriptions and and in your setting descriptions. A couple of sentences, if the words are chosen correctly and they're good descriptions, are going to go a long way. Like Eli did with his Glee, with his Glee kids. That was great. Great, quick. Didn't have to go into descriptions of what the kids were wearing or anything. Great. Other questions?
There's one more question from the chat.
Okay.
It says character accents, Scottish, English. Where do you put that?
I put that usually in the parenthetical right underneath at the beginning. So it'll say, like Agor, and then it'll say, in with a Scottish dialect in the parenthetical. That's where I'll, include it. Or in the scene description when you introduce the character, somebody who speaks in a heavy, Irish brogue, then you don't have to be going through that. Same thing if you have a character, for instance, who speaks Spanish. You don't have to go through and write everything in Spanish. You can just write what they're saying in English, and in the parenthetical you can say in Spanish. And then you can leave it up to the director and editor if they're gonna do subtitles or whatever. Okay, before we break, there are a couple more things I want to cover. Oh, okay, so I saw 3 movies. We talked about the hook and how to get into a script. And with Yelena's script on Sunday, it was really interesting. We didn't even have to give her this note, but she was, as soon as the script was done being read, or she instantly said, these first 30, 40 pages, I can start the story much later. And that was absolutely right. She was absolutely on the money, because we have a tendency sometimes to want to warm up to get into the story. But as Tolstoy told us, start the story when the story starts, when things start happening, when the action's happening. Again, remember, it's a movie. We don't need to see somebody get up, brush their teeth, put on their underwear, take a shower, get in the car, go to the office in order to, find that the aliens have landed. Just start with the aliens landing and get to know the character as things go along. Now, I want to use the 3 movies I saw this week as great examples, because all of them had a great hook. Every single one of them had just this. So one of them was Baby Driver. I highly recommend all 3 of these movies, by the way. So Baby Driver was really fun, a formulaic yet with some fantastic twists and some real creativity and originality in it. So very entertaining, but it starts off with a bank heist. And with this kid who's the driver, and instead of going into the bank, you see him outside listening to his music, and then you have this exciting car chase, and you get to know the characters during the heist and the aftermath. It's fantastic. It's like you're in it, and immediately you're just like, well, this is going to be a fun movie. I mean, we got a bank heist, got interesting characters that we're starting to get to know. It was just a fantastic way of starting out the movie. So a great hook. The next movie, or another movie I saw, was The Beguiled, which was Sofia Coppola's new movie. And you think it's starting off slowly. You see a little girl going through the woods in 1864. Georgia? Was it Georgia? I can't even remember now. Louisiana? Anyway. Picking mushrooms. And then suddenly she comes upon a dying soldier, Union soldier, in the woods, who who's immediately like, help me take, so she's helping. I mean, instantly grabs you. You know, you've got the time, you've got the setting, you've got a little girl, you've got this, finding a dangerous, potentially dangerous, dying soldier. You're just hooked immediately. It's like interesting immediately. I think that's the key. It's interesting immediately. And then the other movie I saw was The Hero. Sam Elliott, I don't remember the director's name or the writer's name. I think it was the same guy. But, it starts off with this old cowboy actor doing a little voiceover for just, 30, 45 seconds. And then he's in a doctor's office finding out that he's got terminal cancer. I mean, it's just like, let's start it right off. We don't have to start with 5 minutes of getting to know who he is, what his family members are, his daughter, his ex-wife, where he lives, who's his best friend. All that stuff happens as the story progresses, but just starting off. So those are great examples of movies that start off great. Think of, Jaws, a naked woman goes into the ocean and gets eaten by a shark. I mean, that's hell of a hook, And as we talked about before, it doesn't have to be something grandiose. It just has to be a hook. It has to be interesting. It has to. And the thing about Baby Driver too, it was not only it was the style, well, this is something we should talk about. I mean, all three of these movies, you guys know. I mean, you've turned on a movie and you can tell just by the filmmaking that it's shit, right? I mean, you can just tell, or that it's not. I mean, maybe the director didn't know what he was doing, and maybe the actors are all bad, but you're not going to sit around to find out if the writing is actually good, if you're not going to be trying to decipher whether it's really good. Your screenplay needs to do the same thing. It needs to, as we're talking about all these things, the way that, everything that we're talking about is to make your screenplay professional, look professional, that it feels professional, that it is effective, it's an effective story, that it hooks people, and so that everyone, same thing, it's like the first 2 minutes watching a movie, whether it's going to be good or bad. The first 2 minutes reading a script, whether it's going to be good or bad. Trust me. And as we said before, title page is a big part of that. We're going to talk about gerunds. Gerund, Gerunds. Look it up if you don't know what a gerund is, but it's another way. We talked about the passive way of writing. Using gerunds excessively is extremely passive, and it is, it's the ing, so it's like John is walking, John is sitting, Mary is looking at the sun without sunglasses. It's that there's something that is like that, as I said before, that's like describing a still photograph, to the blind guy next to you. It's like, what's the picture? Oh, there's a woman, she's sitting on a ledge and she's looking at the ocean. You just described a still photo. Nothing's happening. It's an image. Now, let's change that. So here, I wrote it. I wrote something two ways. I wrote, here's a scene, exterior balcony. The sun is setting. Mark is sitting on the ledge. Mary is approaching him with a gun, pointing it at his head. All right, now there's images there. It's okay, right? Now let's just change the way we do it. Let's get rid of the gerunds. Let's get rid of all the INGs and the still photos. And let's say, exterior balcony. Mark sits on the ledge. He watches the orange glow of the LA sunset. Mary approaches with a gun. She points it at his head. You see the difference? It's like, it's things that are happening. You're pulling the reader along. It's like this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. It's a movie now. It's not, here's an image, here's another image, here's another image. It's very active too. You're pulling people along. It's not passive, and you'll find that it'll going through and doing a gerund pass is gonna make your script a lot stronger. It's gonna have more impact. It's gonna be better. So do that. Here's another thing. This question goes back to about descriptions and stuff. I recommend that you just take a page, write a page that's got a decent amount of description on it, decent amount of action, and one that doesn't have a whole lot of dialogue. Now, go into that and take out every adjective, take out every adverb. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter how much you love them. Take them out. Okay. So, and I seriously want you to do this. This is like something I seriously want you to do. It'll be very valuable to do. Just grab a piece of any of your writing that's got a good chunk of description. Take out everything, and then read it. See how it flows, and And then once you've done that, you're gonna find that suddenly it moves along better, you know, and you're not really missing a whole lot. You're gonna find out you're not really missing a lot. And then go back to that page and choose 3 of them. You can choose one adjective, a couple of adverbs, or one adverb, a couple, maybe 3 adjectives, and put them back in. You know, the ones that you really want, the ones you really need, the ones that really spice it up, that help tell the story. And you're going to find then that those, when you're that judicious in the way that you use adjectives and adverbs, the writing's going to be a lot more dynamic. It's going to be a lot more, and this goes back to descriptions on how much to say. We did an exercise in class one time that was really interesting, where I had a writer who just wrote these. I mean, he was writing a fantasy script, and he would write chunks of, you know, it was a 100-page script, and it took us like 2 hours, and we were 40 pages in, you know, and it's just chunks of action, and it read like a novel. And finally, I just had enough, and I was like, okay, stop it. Can't do this anymore. We don't have any more time. And I said, just as an experiment, let's keep reading the script, but let's only read the first sentence of every paragraph of description. So that's what we did. Were you in that class, Danny?
That's Brian Vance.
Yeah. So I wasn't going to say his name, but so that's what we did. We just read the first sentence, and then we'd leave out the 16 other sentences and go on to the next thing. And it was amazing. The thing, we didn't miss it. I mean, the story, we knew what was happening. We knew it was just we didn't have all the details, and we didn't need them. You know, they bogged it down. They were killing it. And that was a great lesson, I think, for the writer, and it's a great lesson for all of us, that a lot of the stuff you're writing you don't need. Sometimes you have to write it to get it out, but you have to be able to be ready to get rid of it. Here's a new rule for you. A new strong guideline to follow. Thou shalt not bore. Okay, that's it. Thou shalt not bore. That's your main. That's the sin that we have one commandment. You know, the rest you can do anything else you want. You can covet your neighbor's wife or whatever, but don't bore. You know, in your writing, don't be boring. All right. Let me jump ahead. We're going to have a shorter second period this time, and a little bit longer first period. But your main character. Sometimes you don't know who your main character is, right? Sometimes you're writing a script, and sometimes you think you know who the main character is, but you really don't. And an interesting way to go about this is it's a guideline that I follow. Is like I'll look at it and I'll say, once I have an idea and a story, and I'm like, okay, I think it's going to play out like this. I ask myself a question all the time. I said, does my main character change? Because it's very satisfying dramatically for your main character to be different at the end than they are at the beginning. That's something about the journey that they undergo in this story, something about the things that they have to do, something about the things that happen to them, something about the movie, the story that you're telling, changes this character. Characters like James Bond, of course, they're the same character all the way through. That's expected. Sitcom characters, the same thing. No matter what happens in that episode, next week they're going to come back, they're going to be the same person. But in movies, everything from Shakespeare on, it's from even farther back, it's very. We want to go on this journey and see somebody change. Sometimes it's interesting. I've had writers struggling with something, and they're writing one character, and I say, and I'll see it because now I'm used to seeing it, asking myself the question so I can see it more easily in other people's scripts. But sometimes a secondary character is the one that has this amazing arc. Sometimes especially a man will be writing a script, and the man will be fairly boring and whatever, but there'll be a female character that'll just undergo this incredible arc. And then I point out that your script really isn't about the guy. Your script's really about the woman. And at that point, sometimes a light goes off and they're like, oh, all right. And then it's just a little bit of rewriting and bringing the character that changes to the forefront, making that supporting character the main character, making the main character a supporting character. And suddenly the script is more satisfying, it's more dynamic, it's more exciting because we want to follow the person who changes, generally speaking. So ask yourself that question. Is your main character different at the end of the movie of your script than they were at the beginning? And does that change come about because of what they experience or because of their choices during the script? I had to do a quick rewrite on a script about a couple little kids one time. And there wasn't a lot to work with, but I had to choose one of the boys as a main character. And I decided to give one of them, to make one of them. It was a simple thing, it was easy. I mean, it was almost like shamefully, it's kind of those Disney thing where, I did that too. Remind me, Disney, as soon as I get done with this story. So I took this character and I just made him a coward, It was like simple. It's like the kid, because there was going to be a lot of action, and I just thought, okay, if this one kid is a coward and his grandpa's this war hero, so if in this story he has to, and at the beginning of the film you see him being a coward, he's picked on, he doesn't stand up for himself. But then through the course of the story, he has to, in order to, save his friend and whatever, he has to be brave. I mean, he has to be really brave. And it made such a difference, And then by the end, when he's brave and his grandpa, takes an old medal that he had received in the war and puts it on him, I mean, it's like the audience is like crying, It's fantastic. It just worked. It's simple, but it was simple where you see, especially if you can give a character a weakness that they overcome. People love to see that. They love it. We love to see the alcoholic loser who's lost everything, like in The Verdict with Paul Newman, or it's over and over again. It's almost a cliche. The alcoholic who is defeated, he's given up, but something brings him back, and he comes back and he's the person that he was before, or even better and wiser. You know what I mean? I think you get what I'm saying. So simply that. Find a way, it may help your script enormously to find a way find that arc for that character. We'll talk more about it in future lessons. The Disney thing that I was talking about, I was struggling with my script. I probably shouldn't, all right, I'll tell you. So my film Falling, which I'm really proud of, but in the initial drafts of the script, I realized that there was the wife character, there was something missing, like she wasn't defined enough, she wasn't a strong enough character. And then I'm watching Little Mermaid with my kids one day, and you got this scene where Ariel's like, I want to go where the people, I mean, she's just coming right out and saying, this is what I want. And I was looking at that going, well, that's right on the nose. And then I went and I wrote a scene where this wife character is an actress, and she's in a acting class, and it's just this right on the nose scene where she just comes right out and says what she wants, and it made simple thing, just letting the audience know really early on that this character is about, she wants to be famous, she wants to be successful, it suddenly made that character strong, made that character alive, and it played out and expanded throughout the script. So so keep that in mind as well. So my voice gets tired. All right, so before we go, I'm going to give you your assignment. So you've got one assignment of title page. Give me a perfect title page. Your next assignment, besides your 4 pages a day, is one of my favorite assignments, and if you do it, and if you don't cheat, you're going to learn something. And it will change your writing forever. It'll influence your writing forever, and it's only going to take you a little bit of time. I just call it an eavesdropping exercise. So now that you understand, now that you know what formatting is, you're gonna do another short film, but this one you don't have to use much creativity at all. You're gonna write another short film. It's only 3 to 5 pages tops, but I want you to eavesdrop. I want you to turn on the, turn turn on your recorder, turn on your phone voice recorder, and record a real life conversation. Not you, you're not allowed to be in it. You're just listening. Maybe you're at a family gathering and a couple people are talking at the table without them knowing that they're being recorded. Just turn on your recorder and let it go for 3 or 4 minutes. Or if you're at the mall and you're in the food court and there's a couple teenage girls and they're sitting there and you can hear them, just turn on your recorder and see what they say. And then go and put that into screen, put exactly what they say. Don't clean it up. Don't embellish it. Don't make it up. But just write, for instance, one of the best ones, it was just, and you can tell, we're going to read them, and if anybody cheats, we're going to know, because you can tell the difference between real life dialogue, which is all fucked up, right? It's like people don't finish sentences, they're completely vague about what they say, and yet the other person understands exactly what they say, and they interrupt each other. They say the same words over and over. They say like all the time, or all the time, or it's going to be fascinating. So, but one of the best ones was a stay-at-home mom who was taking the class a few years ago, and she recorded her 2 little kids in the bathtub. They're like 4 and 6. And so she just recorded the 2 of them talking in the bathtub for 3 or 4 minutes, and then put it in screenplay, format with Cade and Jewel or whatever their names were, interior bathroom night, Cade, description of Cade, description of Jewel, taking a bath, and then they just talk for 3 pages. And it was the most beautiful, authentic, there's not a writer who has ever existed that could have written anything that amazing, that beautiful, and yes, it didn't, but it was so authentic, it was so genuine. And sure, you wouldn't, and what you're going to find, is, if that was a scene in a movie, you'd probably just want to edit the best 30 seconds of that and have it going on in the background. But what an amazing thing. I mean, can you imagine? People would think you're a genius of a filmmaker. It's like, how did you write that? It's like, well, you don't have to tell them how you did it, but it's like, yeah, well. But the reason you're doing it is because I want you to learn, I want you to see, and it's not just theory. I mean, right now you're like going, oh yeah, I get it. No, you've got to do the exercise. And then you've got to write it down. You've got to have that, you've got to write down every word as they say it. Use the commas to indicate the gaps. Use the ellipses to indicate when there's a pause. And then we're gonna read some of these in class, and it's one of the most valuable things. It's going to teach you about writing dialogue. It's going to teach you how most of it is just garbage. I mean, most of it is unusable. Most of the way people speak it's such a mess that you could never use it in a screenplay. But you'll learn about the rhythms. You'll learn about the way people talk. You'll be able to make your dialogue have the illusion of real dialogue. And there are some people, there are people who are masters at it. Like Woody Allen is just a master at it. It's like his people are. Even though the writing is very specific, it's very written. It's not ad-libbed, but it feels like it has the illusion of conversations that people really, until recently. Yeah, never mind. Anything that he's done in the past 10 years, just ignore what I said. Stuff he did in the 70s felt like real people talking, Now it all feels like Woody Allen talking. I love Woody Allen, though. Absolutely love him. So don't take that the wrong way. Okay, so there's our assignments for the week. So 4 pages a day. Keep up on that. I'll let you do the eavesdropping exercise as one of your days, so you can, I don't want to give you so much that you can't keep up. So eavesdropping exercise, as long as it's 4 pages long, and then do your writing and give me a title page. All right, we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back for a very abbreviated session. So we're going to take 10 minutes. So we're going to start at 8:30, probably 8:31. We'll get back, and then we should be done by 9 o'clock tonight. Okay, fantastic. See you in a bit.
but what's that?
It's not saying much in my opinion.
Yeah, Sam Raimi was, the second one was probably the best one before this, I think. I enjoyed it. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it, but my kids wanted to see it, and I'm going, oh God, here we go again.
I'm sure I'll end up seeing it.
I like the Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Thought that
Ready to
was
go?
a pretty good
Okay,
movie.
give me a 3, 2, 1.
The Amazing Spider-Man, the first one.
All right, here we go. Ready? Okay, this is going to be fun. So we're going to read one of the shorts. This is this last part of class. We're going to read it, critique it just like we do on Sunday nights. And what we're going to try to do more and more on the second half of these classes, these Wednesday night classes, is have some time to be able to read and respond to your writing. So we're going to read Jared's script, which he sent everyone a PDF for on the Facebook page, and but we're going to read it right now. So everybody, pull this up, and I'll just critique the title page while we're doing that. So let's put it in quotation marks. It's an original screenplay. So that's a very original spelling of the word original. And then, put the contact information justified right, God damn it, and then put the WGA registration copyright justified left, God damn it. Okay. All right, are we all ready? We got it? So here's what, I'm going to read the part of Ray. And Walt, can you read the screen direction? Do you have a microphone there by you that you can do that? Okay. So as soon as you pull it up there, we'll get started.
Common Entrance, an original screenplay by Jared Bunnell. Bunnell? It is a beautiful morning on a black alley street. A long row of buildings stretches out along it, the backs of businesses with their loading docks and dumpsters. As with most back-end spaces, it's dirty, trash and spots of moisture dot the scene. A slick, very new-looking Corvette pulls up along the back of one of the businesses. Out steps Ray, a 38-year-old white man. He is svelte and put together. He wears a fashionable gray suit, white shirt, and sharp tie. His hair is immaculate. Ray is talking on the phone through a Bluetooth earpiece.
Yes, payment came through late last night. No, it's all on schedule.
Ray moves around the vehicle door and shuts it. His movements are measured and efficient.
Wait, what am I hearing in the background?
Ray moves over to the back of one of the buildings and leans against it. There is a dumpster to his right and about 5 feet from the wall.
I knew it. Absolutely unmistakable, even from 2,000 miles away. So, are you a hardcore fan or just a filthy casual?
Ray listens intently, moving his head up and down as he mentally agrees with what he's hearing on the other end.
Okay. Let me ask you this: the prequels, master classes in ring theory or fucking dumpster fires?
Ray cocks his head slightly to the side as he listens.
Yes, absolute dumpster fires from start to finish. Lucas gets way too much credit for the success of Star Wars. I mean, look, guy had a decent idea, but where he really succeeded was lucking into an incredibly talented crew.
Ray listens even more intently as he is interrupted. He casually glances at his watch. It reads 8:07 a.m.
Thank you. When those fucking faggot Lucas apologists start in on they're his movies, he can do what he wants with them shit, I just want to slit their fucking throats. They're not his fucking movies. Well, the first one is, but the cunt didn't direct Empire or Jedi, now did he?
Ray pulls a cigarette case from underneath his suit coat. It is a handsome vintage silver piece embossed with intricate design. He carefully opens the case, revealing neat, hand-rolled cigarettes. He selects one and thoughtfully brings it to his mouth.
Agreed. The changes that motherfucker did to the movies in '97 are unforgivable. Why don't you just change the entire character of Han Solo, George? That won't piss off anyone, now will it?
Ray puts the cigarette case back in his suit's breast pocket.
Huh? No. Han did not shoot first. He was the only one to shoot. Greedo never pulled the trigger. Han assessed the situation and realized that he wasn't walking out of that cantina unless he acted. So he blew that fucking bug-eyed piece of shit to hell.
Ray pulls a lighter from his pants pocket. Like the case, it is vintage and beautiful. He flips the top back with a clink and ignites it. He gently brings the flame to the cigarette and lights it.
That scene is fucking important because it shows Han has no qualms about doing what has to be done, that he's resourceful, that he knows how to survive. In that small scene, we learn nearly everything we need to know about his character. It was brilliant, and then Lucas went and fucked it up.
Ray takes a long drag of his cigarette. As he listens to the man on the other end of the line, he exhales.
Here's the thing, man. I was born shortly before Empire came out. I basically caught the tail end of Jedi as a kid, but I'll tell you one thing, I was in it from my very beginning, and I never left.
Ray puts his foot back against the wall as he speaks.
In 84, 85, everybody started to move on from Star Wars, on to girls, on to other movies, whatever. I stayed. When I was 10, 11, 12, I would scour antique stores looking for the Kenner figures. I didn't want those goddamn pussy Ninja Turtles or fucking G.I. Joes. I wanted goddamn Star Wars figures.
Ray takes another drag and lets out a long trail of smoke as he listens.
Yeah, I listened to the radio dramas, read the very few books about the making of the films.
Ray listens.
Yeah, that's the best one. Journal of the Making of the Empire Strikes Back. What a read. Can't believe you know that one.
Ray flicks the ash off the end of his cigarette.
When Heir to the Empire came out, it became my fucking Bible. Zahn's trilogy is infinitely better than anything Lucas has shit out since 77. I mean, Grand Admiral Thrawn, possibly one of the greatest sci-fi villains ever put on to print. A cold, calculating killer, a guy who sees all the pieces in play at all times. What a legend.
Ray shifts his right foot back down to the ground.
Huh? Shit, yeah, I collect. I really shouldn't say this, but did you see that auction for that screen-used R2-D2 that just sold?
Ray pushes away from the wall, moves casually over a few feet to the right so he is between the small green dumpster and the wall and settles in again with his back against the bricks.
Yeah, I bought that.
A big smile spreads across Ray's face as it is clear the person on the other end is flipping out.
I ran it through about 20 proxies, dummy companies, but yeah, it's mine.
Ray puts out the cigarette between his fingers and puts it in his pocket. He then smooths out the front of his suit and futzes with the length of his shirt cuffs at the end of the arms on his suit jacket.
Oh, totally. When the fucking special editions came out, it was nothing but assholes deciding they liked Star Wars again. Where the fuck were they when it was on its deathbed, huh? I'll tell you where. They were blowing whatever fad came down the line. Fuck those assholes. They don't deserve to have Star Wars again. They didn't deserve to have Star Wars again, no matter how much Lucas fucked it up.
As Ray listens to the person on the other end of the line, he checks his watch again, 8:10. He looks left up the street. There is no traffic and there are no pedestrians. Out of his pocket he pulls some very expensive-looking black leather gloves and puts them on one by one, alternating between stretching his fingers out and balling his fists to get a nice fit.
The worst one? Easy. Revenge of the Sith.
Ray listens and unbuttons his suit coat.
Now, listen, Clones is fucking awful, and so is TPM, but Sith is by far the worst.
Ray glances left. He sees a cyclist coming down the street toward him. The cyclist is decked out in pricey-looking gear, complete with sloped helmet and a serious-looking bike. By the look of him, it is easy to imagine he cycles most everywhere.
Because goddamn Sith destroyed Darth Vader. I mean, look, before the prequels, Darth Vader was a badass. The best villain in movie history. Sith takes this and shits all over it. Oh, you mean Vader turned to the dark side because he had a fucking dream? A goddamn dream? What the fuck is that? Real people have a bad dream and roll over and go back to sleep. They don't go out and carve up a room full of fucking children like Thanksgiving turkeys. I mean, what the fuck?
The cyclist is getting closer, flying down the street.
And what the fuck is with everyone having to be related? I mean, Empire got it right. Vader being Luke's father was genius. Then you get to Jedi and Leia's his sister. Lame, but okay. By the time you get to the prequels, every goddamn idiot in the story is somehow connected. Obi-Wan knows R2 and Boba Fett. Why not? Fans will love it, right? I mean, did you know that Greedo-looking kid was supposed to be Greedo? Yeah, somebody talked Lucas out of it, thank God, but they filmed some scene where one of the characters says to him, "Gee, Greta, you better watch yourself or someday you'll be in trouble." Fucking garbage. Jesus Christ.
Ray steps away from the wall, standing between it and the dumpster.
What? Oh my God, that's the absolute worst. Darth fucking Vader made 3PO. Darth fucking Vader. Why in God's name would you make Darth fucking Vader make goddamn 3PO? Fucking shit, puts me in a goddamn rage.
The cyclist is mere feet away.
Fuck!
Suddenly, Ray gives the dumpster a forceful kick with the bottom of his right foot. The dumpster jolts forward just as the cyclist gets to that section of the sidewalk. The bike slams into the front of the dumpster, kicking the cyclist up and over the handlebars, and into the dumpster with a thud, the bike coming to rest in front of it. In one fluid movement, Ray advances on the dumpster. He picks up the bike and throws it over the edge and on top of the cyclist.
Ow!
Ray pulls a suppressed black handgun from a holster under his suit coat and brings it quickly to bear on the cyclist.
No!
3 quick muffled shots echo in the street. Ray returns the gun to its holster while already headed to his car.
Oh, yeah, it's done.
He opens the car door and gets inside.
I hope you're right, man. The trailers look good, but we are talking about the guy who did Into Darkness. Let's hope episode 7's a movie we've been waiting for since 1983.
Ray closes the door.
Yeah, my pleasure. Always nice doing business with a fellow Star Wars nut.
Ray pulls out his Bluetooth earpiece and puts it in the cup holder. The Corvette roars to life with a deep rumble and skids away. The camera, low to the ground, follows it from left to right, with the dumpster in the foreground, the bottom corner of the dripping blood onto the pavement. Cut to title screen, white on black. Common interests.
All right, great. Let's give him a hand on that one. Quick, I'll give us some notes while you guys are gathering your thoughts. So at the beginning, be sure to give us a scene heading, exterior street day, or whatever it's going to be. Here's an example at the bottom of the second paragraph there. Ray is talking on the phone through a Bluetooth earpiece. It'll be stronger if you say Ray talks on the phone through a Bluetooth earpiece. Example of gerunds. You've got on the bottom of page 2 your more at your parenthetical more. This is fucked up in a weird place, so you must be using some strange software. Yeah, when you use Kenner, the name of Kenner, Star Wars, those things should be capitalized. Got another fucked up more at the bottom of page 3. Top of page 4, it's just a misspelling, sci-fi instead of sick-fi. That was probably autocorrect. Same one, Revenge of the Sith on the top of page 5, that should be in parentheses, and it's a good general rule if you ever include a name of a movie, a name of a song, name of a magazine, to put it in italics. So another weird more at the bottom. Oh, and here's the strange thing on 6. Ray, you've got the parenthetical. Ray becoming more heated is in the wrong place. So I don't know what's going on there. It should say Ray and then continued right next to that, and then becoming more heated should be on the second line. And same thing with down here, you've got Ray's third block of dialogue where he says fuck. Enraged should be somewhere else. Let me see if I can find, well, I don't have the camera on the script anymore, but look into Scorpion 69 and you can see whenever there's an actor's parenthetical, here's one, page 37 of Scorpion 69, Sam at the bottom smiles. It's like half indented between the left margin of the dialogue block and the name of the character. Like halfway in between that starts the parenthetical where you put your actor direction. We're becoming more heated or more heated, enraged, that's where that goes. And then, yeah, throw the end at the end, and you got it.
What did you say should be capitalized? I think you're on page 3.
Page 3. Star Wars and Kenner is when he says, I would scour antique stores looking for the Kenner figures. Kenner is the company that made them, so that should be capitalized.
Oh, initial cap, yeah.
Yeah, not the whole word, just the first letter of the word. Star Wars, right? Thanks for clarifying that. All right, guys, what'd you think? Let's hear opinions on it. You guys here at the table, you got your microphones. Let's talk about it. What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? How could it be better? Did you absolutely love it?
Well, I enjoyed it. I thought that I've never read a short like this before. I've seen dialogue about people talking about Star Wars and a lot of stuff. But this is, I think, a rather unique take on it. I would challenge some of his thoughts about Star Wars, but
You're challenging the characters.
yes, indeed.
Oh, okay. Not the writer, because of course.
Right.
Gotcha.
But outside of that, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I don't really have anything bad to say about it. It rolls well. You describe what needs to be described, and even the character, after you've initially described what he looks like, he kind of came off to me like, okay, he's just a generic, suit and tie mobster, but the depth that you gave him, I pictured like some guy that would from a Quentin Tarantino movie, like Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs, where you just have the guy in the suit, but he's more slick back than those guys. So I was expecting something different from the character. But when I got that this guy is just a huge Star Wars nerd, that gave it a little twist to it, and I thought that was nice.
Cool.
Yeah, I was fascinated to see how much you can do with one side of a conversation. And I don't know what I think. I'm not sure. I don't know if the violence was random or planned. I don't know if there's a connection between the cyclist and Ray. If it's a random act of violence, then you could say it's not motivated, but we experience random acts of violence in our life. But the nonchalance with which he puts the cyclist away is intriguing, and ends leaving the mystery.
But what I got out of that was this line, the payment came through last night. No, it's all on schedule. I just assumed he was a hitman. That's just the immediate, just that line that communicated to me he was a hitman. And so I sort of saw that. Well, I didn't see it coming, but I knew this cyclist was in for a not good time. So.
Okay,
that
clears it up. Thanks.
Yeah, but I think I need a little bit more of a tip-off that the cyclist is the target, because he comes off as pretty random to me. Other than that, I'm finding it's just way too dialogue heavy with all the Star Wars shit. It's some pretty catchy stuff through all of that, but I kind of want the cyclist to appear about page 5 and no later, because I was just kind of going to sleep with all this, heated, passionate, trying to keep my language clean here.
Right. Why?
Just on and on about Star Wars, this and that. Great, he's impassioned about it. But it got old pretty quickly for me, and it actually, at this point, the character seems a little superficial to me. All I know about him is that he's an asshole, he's a killer, and he likes Star Wars. That doesn't really hook me into his character. So, but I think, the dialogue, for what it's worth, is catchy, it's well done. There's just way too much of the Star Wars shit, so.
Cool. What about those of you who are watching remotely? Any comments on the script?
Should I read from the chat?
Yes, please read.
Rachel Peterson says, why would a guy in a nice suit put his back against the brick? Or does that mean he's just doesn't give a shit about caring for expensive things? Eli says, I was more interested in the dialogue than the action scenes. Corey says, I agree with Ray. Fuck Lucas. Pathetic. Washed up ass clown. Why does this short feel like it was already written? Episode 7 hasn't been released. Or is that some kind of a joke? What would happen? All right. Corey says, best thing to happen to Star Wars was Lucas' removal from it. As soon as Yelena says, as soon as the cyclist was mentioned, I knew what was going to happen. Bill says it was interesting, just for a lot of effing. Oh, okay. Corey says, I thought it was fun. Rachel says, I missed the Hitman. Rachel says, that helps for me. Scott says, yes. Yelena says, reminds me when Kevin meets Quentin Tarantino. Kevin Smith meets Quentin Tarantino. Rachel says, agree on and on about Star Wars. Maybe could have shortened that. Scott says, exactly, Yelena. Jason says, might have to be a Star Wars fan to like it.
All right, cool. Cool. All right, so I hope that was helpful. That was, I really like this one. Very, very, very well done. So hopefully some of those things, you did wonderfully. You didn't respond and looked like you were listening, so hopefully some of those comments will be helpful. And then I'd like to see you, clean it up and submit it to me again. I actually want to show it to my director friend that he and I are making shorts. I mean, maybe it's a good one. It's fun. I think it could be cool. But well, just as an exercise, I'm putting on my director's hat now, and I'm looking at the script and saying, well, this is how I would approach it. I thought that tipping I agree with that it's a little long, that maybe a third of it could be cut out of the dialogue. I thought that tipping us off, because at the beginning, as soon as I started reading it, I realized he was a hitman, and so I was just waiting for that to happen. I thought it would be more interesting if we don't know that, if we just see him pull up and start doing stuff. And I would probably start creating business for him to do, like he's actually picking up trash out of the alley and throwing it away or something, to make some weird quirky thing that he's doing. Have some other things happening during the dialogue, people coming by, maybe a pretty woman coming by, or cop car passing by, something that keeps, visually keeps things happening, so it's not completely dependent on the dialogue. And then I would change the ending. To me, it just seemed like I would change, not what happens. Well, I would change, the same thing would happen, but I thought the bicyclist coming and the dumpster and everything, that didn't work for me. I would make it much more brutal and boom but we can talk about that. So I really thought it was a great idea for a short, and I think it's got a lot of promise. Yeah. All right. So that's the meat of our class for this time. So remember what you got to do. Those of you who haven't turned in your shorts yet, or your writing, get that into me. Hold on a second. There's one. I even brought my paper bag. Where did my paper bag go? Because I believe whose script was it that oh, here it is. It's on the floor. Yeah, so Bill Henshaw, you sent me a script called Blind Date, and for some reason I couldn't print out the PDF, which is really weird, but it was the only one that I couldn't print out, so hopefully in the future we'll figure this one out. So unfortunately I don't have it with me to reference, but let me just tell you some things that I wrote down on the back of my Kinko's bag. Add the WGA to your title page, and again with your characters, add a specific age and a good description. I wrote simply woman's voiceover. I can't remember exactly how you did it, but when you have the woman's voice, that's how it should be written. It should just say woman's voice, and then in parentheses right next to it, VO. Don't explain to the reader what the viewer can't figure out. Oh, you have a line about, you explain in the text that Randy hacked the car navigation system and that it's his voice. So you can't, that was something that the viewer's never going to get. Only the reader will. So you need to add something like Joe saying, Randy, fucking hacker asshole, or something like that, so that the audience clues into what's just happened. Capitalize Tammy at her entrance. Describe her. No need for the flashback. Don't put action in the dialogue parenthetical. Right, so we talked about that. You have the name of the character, and then below it you can say, whispers or softly or enraged, but you don't use that parenthetical to describe a physical action like walks across the room or anything like that. It's only to describe the delivery, the way the line should be delivered. Any change of location is a change of scene, needs a new scene heading. And once again, describe the characters when they're introduced. Okay, great. So, do your writing, give me a title page, and do your eavesdropping exercise. Any other questions, throw them on Facebook. And have a great week. See you next week.